Hi, my name is Erin Brundage, and I chose to do self-determination in the developmentally disabled. Everybody has a different definition for self-determination, but self-determination is being able to make your own decisions that are necessary to help you gain your own rights. For my annotated bibliography, I did choose periodical sources and one peer review. For the first source, the authors kind of presented the challenge that's faced by disability teens that are transitioning from childhood to adulthood. This kind of indicates how independence is very important when you are facing the society that favors the norm. For the second source, Churchill kind of talks about how every developmental disabled person deserves a chance in the workforce. Today, developmentally disability adults that have disabilities do have lack of opportunities in the workplace. And it concludes that everybody has the right to equal opportunity, and we are all created equal, and we are somebody at the end of the day. For the third one, Erickson talks about how the Florida Self-Advocacy Organization joined with the Florida Developmental Disability Council and spoke on the issues of certain rights. This joining helped promote the self-determination, gives the developmental choices that range from education along to the workforce. It is a helpful source because for individuals with developmental disabilities help realize that they can make their own decisions. For the next source, the article touches on the ethical assessment, barriers, and effect of how people with disabilities need more guidelines from specialists. Talk about the training and experience that specialists can take on to help convey their guidelines when it comes to helping the client with the self-determination and awareness of gaining trust. For the next source is a qualitative study that was conducted to determine the challenges experienced by parents of children with disability. This method was used in a focus group of interviewing the caregivers with the disabled children and how they face barriers from limitation of different services within their community, financial barriers, school, and community inclusions. These themes kind of touch on how not only the disabled are affected, but the caregivers struggle with finding motivation to help support due to the lack of services. And for the last source, the article discusses how many people with developmental disabilities have received the case service management and how the limitations within certain communities do not incorporate the help of disabled adults or specific services. So Margaret Thiessen explains how work experience with the disabled adults and the different issues that they face. It is a helpful source because the overall perspective of the importance of including services is the fact that they need to aid the support of the disabled within a certain community. For the next one, it talks about the positive and the negative impacts of young adults, teens, and kids with developmental disabilities. As our knowledge continues to grow, we are positioned to help families and caregivers explore ways in which they can promote mental health in individuals with developmental disabilities. The goal is to provide families and the caregivers with direction, guidelines, techniques that can help enhance their determination, independence, and making decisions. So for the positive side, when people are dealing with somebody with disabilities, you do create a supportive relationship who is with you along the way for your whole life. Once they make the decision, if they make the right decision and you trust them, or the client is able to trust their caregiver, they gain confidence and independence, especially when they're transitioning, as I mentioned before, from one of my sources, from childhood to adulthood, and then creating that foundation where you're able to make decisions on your own or help your caregiver make decisions. On the negative side, there are limited opportunities or no support to make choices or decisions. Sometimes, such as children are overprotected, and When it comes to the significance to human services do professionals advocate for the rights of all members in the society, and working with developmentally disabled, they do have a right to serve as a voice to gain the productivity and the determination of independence for their client. They ensure that the patients are offered opportunities through programs and activities in structural ways, and also they recognize major impacts, dilemmas, or effects to help build the client's strength. Some ethical dilemmas are highlighting the balance between the rights and responsibilities and the interpretation of the client's wishes and feelings. When reading Woodside and McLean, it talks about the ethical standpoint of how responsible it is to committing to help the client and develop their best abilities, which leads to the confidentiality and moral obligation grounded when it comes to values and ethics that can include decision making and attempt to provide valid solution. When working with some facilities that have adults with developmental disabilities or even children, they do use a different language and philosophical beliefs within that agency to directly or enhance self-determination. If a client is not able to talk or speak, certain people or peers may not be aware of how they interact with those persons because they are different from us, but they may not be able to communicate in ways that we are used to. Sometimes what we notice is that when people don't have the same IQ or abilities, it is easier to make decisions for them. If you're interested in volunteering, there is a facility called Total Care and Concern, and you take a group of people and conduct an activity to help promote self-determination. One of my classes did have an opportunity to create self-determination by building a garden and doing an arts and crafts activity. Thank you for your time.